Imagine being told that the global financial system operates using the same mechanics as a classic con. Every dollar you earn, save, or invest is plugged into a structure that only functions if new participants keep entering below, sending money upward. This isn't some shady operation hidden in the margins of finance. It's the framework that supports the modern economy itself. The uncomfortable reality is this. The system hasn't fallen apart yet because governments, banks, and central authorities constantly inject fresh borrowers, expanding credit, and carefully maintained illusions. The real question isn't if this structure fails, it's who absorbs the damage when it does. To see why, it helps to understand how a pyramid scheme actually works. The concept is simple. Early participants are paid not from real profits, but from the contributions of those who join later. In 1920, Charles Ponzi made this model famous by offering investors a 50% return in just 3 months. Initial payouts came straight from new investors' money, creating the appearance of success. Confidence grew, cash flooded in, and people assumed the system was secure. But the math was unforgiving. Each new level required more participants than the last. Within a short time, the scheme imploded, wiping out thousands. Ponzi was imprisoned, but the logic behind his operation never disappeared. A pyramid fails because infinite growth is impossible in a limited world. Here's where things get unsettling. If you remove the legal labels, the global economy follows the same blueprint. Governments rack up trillions in debt without producing equivalent value, pushing repayment onto generations that don't even exist yet. Corporations borrow heavily to repurchase shares, boosting stock prices today while delaying the cost. Households rely on credit cards and long-term mortgages, paying interest endlessly as balances barely shrink. And the money itself isn't backed by anything tangible. No gold, no silver. It's created the moment a loan is issued. Most people never realize this. Money isn't printed first and spent later. It's born through lending. Under fractional reserve banking, a bank that receives a $1,000 deposit only needs to keep a small portion in reserve. The rest is loaned out, becoming new money. That loan gets deposited elsewhere, partially reserved again, and relent. From one deposit, the system generates layers of credit. On paper, wealth appears to multiply. In reality, it's a stack of promises piled upward like a pyramid. It functions only while confidence holds, and people don't all demand their money simultaneously. When trust breaks, the consequences are immediate. Bank runs follow. Institutions fail. Governments intervene. We've seen this movie before, during the Great Depression and again in 2008. This structure didn't appear overnight. After World War II, the global economy rebuilt under the Bretton Woods system, tying the US dollar to gold. That anchor vanished in 1971 when the gold window was closed. From that moment on, the world shifted fully to fiat currency, money backed only by belief. And belief is fragile. To keep the system alive, perpetual growth became mandatory. Growth fueled by borrowing. Growth driven by inflation. Growth extracted from labor. That should sound familiar. Consider pensions and social security. The money you contribute isn't stored away waiting for you. It's used immediately to pay current retirees. This works only if enough new workers keep entering the base. But aging populations in places like Japan, Italy, and even the US are shrinking that base. Fewer contributors, more beneficiaries. The math doesn't balance. Governments respond by borrowing more and printing more, deepening the hole rather than closing it. The housing market tells the same story. Home prices rose for decades not because properties became inherently more valuable, but because buyers were pushed to pay more using borrowed money. Every boom relied on fresh entrants at the bottom. When affordability breaks, as it's doing now, the base contracts, confidence cracks, and paper wealth disappears. Financial markets follow similar logic. Stock prices don't rise solely on profits. They rise on the assumption that someone else will buy at a higher price tomorrow. Crypto made this explicit. Early adopters profit only if later buyers believe harder. But this mindset isn't limited to crypto. It defines the entire system. When collapse threatens, the final layer steps in: central banks. In 2008, when the housing pyramid failed, trillions were created under the banner of quantitative easing. Old debts were covered with new money. Losses were absorbed by the public. Profits stayed private. The pyramid didn't fall, it expanded. The cost landed on savers, workers, and taxpayers through inflation and declining purchasing power. History repeats this pattern. The 1930s depression. Japan's asset bubble in the 1980s. Each case depended on endless money and belief until reality intervened. What's changed is normalization. We call it stimulus. We call it growth. We call it economic management. But if a system can't survive without constant debt injections and expanding belief, it isn't stable. It's fragile. Today, the structure is larger than ever. Global debt now exceeds $300 trillion, roughly 3 times the world's annual output. That means humanity owes 3 years of labor just to stand still. Yet the prescription remains the same. More borrowing, more expansion, more future sacrifice to fix present cracks. It's a Ponzi structure everyone recognizes but fears stopping, because halting it would trigger collapse. Inflation is how the system quietly collects payment. Prices rise not only due to supply and demand, but because new money floods the economy whenever deficits grow or markets wobble. When money outpaces real value, purchasing power erodes. Inflation isn't accidental. It's the admission fee for keeping the structure alive. Demographics make this worse. Retirement systems rely on young workers supporting the old. But birth rates are falling while lifespans grow longer. In Japan, adult diapers now outsell baby diapers. That statistic isn't just social, it's economic. Europe and the US are moving in the same direction. The pyramid base is shrinking. Every major crisis gets the same response. The New Deal, petrodollar recycling, quantitative easing, pandemic stimulus. The system is never reset, it's reinforced. Those at the top benefit most. Banks earn interest on money they created. Corporations leverage debt to inflate stock prices. Politicians promise benefits deferred to the future. Late entrants absorb the risk. This is why the analogy matters. Once you recognize the pattern, it's impossible to ignore. Governments possess powers Ponzi never did: money creation, taxation, enforcement. But the structure is familiar. Endless expansion isn't sustainable. The takeaway is simple. The system isn't designed to protect you. Inflation, bailouts, debt, these aren't bugs. They're how it survives. Real security exists outside promises. In skills, networks, tangible assets, and resilience beyond confidence-based systems. The global economy may not be legally defined as a pyramid scheme, but structurally, it echoes one. It survives only while the base keeps feeding it. And history is clear about what happens when belief runs out. If you confuse a pyramid for a foundation, it won't hold you up.